In medicine, levels of evidence are arranged in a ranking system used in evidence-based practices to describe the strength of the results measured in a clinical trial or research study, the design of the study, such as a case report for an individual patient or a double-blinded randomized controlled trial, and the endpoints measured, such as survival or quality of life, affect the strength of the evidence. Definition: the National Cancer Institute defines levels of evidence as a ranking system used to describe the strength of the results measured in a clinical trial or research study, the design of the study, and the endpoints measured, affect the strength of the evidence. Quote, history. The term was first used in a 1979 report by the Canadian Task Force on the Periodic Health Examination to grade the effectiveness of an intervention according to the quality of evidence obtained. The task force used 4 levels. Evidence from at least one randomized controlled trial. II-1 evidence from at least one well-designed cohort study, a case control study. I.e., a controlled trial which is not randomized. II-2 comparisons between times and places with or without the intervention. III opinions of respected authorities based on clinical experience. Descriptive studies are reports of expert committees. The Canadian Task Force (CTF) graded the recommendations into a 5-point AE scale. A. Good level of evidence for the recommendation to consider a condition. B. Fair level of evidence for the recommendation to consider a condition. C. Poor level of evidence for the recommendation to consider a condition. D. Fair level evidence for the recommendation to exclude the condition. And D. Good level of evidence for the recommendation to exclude condition from consideration. The CTF updated the report in 1984. In 1986 and 1987, the United States Preventive Services Task Force, USPSTF, came out with its guidelines based on the CTF. In 1988, Level 1, evidence obtained from at least one properly designed randomized controlled trial. Level 2-1, evidence obtained from well-designed controlled trials without randomization. Level 2-2, evidence obtained from well-designed cohort or case control analytic studies, preferably from more than one center or research group. Level 2-3, evidence obtained from multiple time series designs with or without the intervention. Dramatic results in uncontrolled trials might also be regarded as this type of evidence. Level 3, opinions of respected authorities, based on clinical experience, descriptive studies, or reports of expert committees. Over the years, many more grading systems have been described. Another example of a system for grading evidence is the Oxford, UK, CEBM levels of evidence. Most of the evidence ranking schemes grade evidence for therapy and prevention, but not for diagnostic tests, prognostic markers, or harm. The Oxford CEBM levels of evidence addresses this issue and provides levels of evidence for claims about prognosis, diagnosis, treatment benefits, treatment harms, and screening. The original CEBM levels was first released in September 2000 for evidence based on call to make the process of finding evidence feasible and its results explicit. As published in 2009, they are 1a. Systematic reviews, with homogeneity, of randomized controlled trials. 1b. Individual randomized controlled trials, with narrow confidence interval. 1c. All or none randomized controlled trials. 2a. Systematic reviews, with homogeneity, of cohort studies. 2b. Individual cohort study or low-quality randomized controlled trials, e.g., less than 80% follow-up. 2c. Outcomes research, ecological studies. 3a. Systematic review, with homogeneity of case control studies. 3b. Individual case control study. 4. Case series and poor quality cohort and case control studies. 5. Expert opinion without explicit critical appraisal, or based on physiology, bench research or first principles. In 2011, the Oxford CEBM levels were redesigned by an international team to make it more understandable and to take into account recent developments in evidence ranking schemes. The Oxford CEBM levels of evidence have been used by patients, clinicians and also to develop clinical guidelines including recommendations for the optimal use of phototherapy and topical therapy in psoriasis and guidelines for the use of the BCLC staging system for diagnosing and monitoring hepatocellular carcinoma in Canada. Limitations. The hierarchy of evidence produced by a study designed has been questioned, because guidelines have failed to properly define key terms, weight the merits of certain non-randomized controlled trials, and employ a comprehensive list of study design limitations. See also JADAD scale, hierarchy of evidence, evidence levels with explanations, entry in the Center for Evidence-Based Medicine. Evidence-based medicine resources page with a diagram showing different levels of evidence, forming a pyramid. This article incorporates public domain material from the U.S. National Cancer Institute document, Dictionary of Cancer Terms.